Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hello and welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you today by AdamandEve.com, where for a limited time only you'll get 50% off of just about any item. Just go to AdamandEve.com and type in the promo code HEALTH, that's HEALTH, HEALTH, and you'll get 50% off of just about any item. Again, welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast. I am your host, Sarah, and I am so happy to have you joining me today. We've been on a bit of a break from the podcast, but it's wonderful to be back and to have you listening to us again. So, you probably were expecting to hear Pauline's voice, and Pauline has moved on to other things, and we miss her terribly. We loved her. We do love her so much. It's not past tense. We still love her. We miss her. So today I want to talk a little bit about the holidays, and Halloween is next week, right? Halloween is coming. Trick-or-treaters will be arriving at your house if you are someone who chooses to turn your lights on and invite them to your door to give them candy. Or maybe you like to use this as an opportunity to eat the candy, right? I mean, Halloween is awesome if you're a kid, and it can be awesome if you're an adult. There's all, it's fun to dress up and pretend to be someone else and go out to parties sometimes. There are programs in place sometimes where I know local dentists will trade in, maybe not local dentists. I think I've heard of programs with local dentists, but I do have friends who will get their kids to trade in their Halloween candy for some healthier options. Maybe that is they'll buy their candy from them, or they'll be able to get a special present that they've been wanting, just so they don't have that much sugar, right? That's one of the options that you can do if you don't want your kiddos eating all of that sugar when they go out and go trick-or-treating. But what about you? Once you buy the candy from your children, do you throw it away? Even if you don't buy the candy from your children, are you one of those parents that finds yourself digging through their Halloween bags going, ooh, Almond Joy, ooh, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, those are my favorite, oh, I love that candy, whatever it might be, and saying, I'm just gonna sneak in there and grab that. The holidays are coming, folks, and it starts with Halloween, and it doesn't stop until next year, because once Halloween is over, Christmas is already in the stores. It's this weird mashup of Halloween and Christmas in aisles right next to each other, looking like the holidays threw up. Thanksgiving, you occasionally can find some stuff for Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving tends to get forgotten in terms of the aisles at the store. Not in terms of food, though, right? Once Halloween is over, then boom, it feels like you turn around and Thanksgiving is there. And there are dinners and feasts and pies and all of those wonderful things that come when you sit down with your beloveds and you enjoy that meal. And whether you are a traditional turkey person or you prefer to have a non-traditional Thanksgiving feast, it's still usually a feast, and it's still usually way more food than you might eat over the course of a week, right? Not just over the course of a meal, over the course of a week. The number of calories that are typically consumed in your average Thanksgiving meal is astronomical. It's crazy. Some people, maybe you're one of those people that does like a turkey trot beforehand. Maybe you will get up and run a 5 or a 10K, and then you feel justified, and rightly so, in partaking of your Thanksgiving feast. Many of us are not quite that ambitious. we might get up and watch the parade. We not walk in the parade. No, we might get up and watch the parade on television where, stay in our living rooms where it's warm, have a nice cup of coffee, watch the parade. Yeah. And then you snack while you cook, and you snack the days leading up to Thanksgiving while you're making the pies or whatever desserts that you like. And then, boom, December hits, and there are work parties. If you are a church member, there's often church things, cookie exchanges, etc. There's cookie exchanges at work. Everything that you're a part of, every group, club, activity that you're a part of, chances are good they are going to do some kind of Christmas activity during the month of December, and that is going to involve food of some sort. And then you only have a mere week between Christmas and New Year's when you get together with friends and family and whomever else to bring in a new year by what? Usually eating, drinking, doing things that involve a lot of calories. So pretty much from now until January 2nd, we just kind of eat and eat and eat. And it's lovely in some ways, right? To get together with family and friends and people you haven't seen for a while, and we tend to celebrate with food. I come from a family where my maternal grandmother tended to show her love through food. When she died, we were telling stories about her and reminiscing about her life, and I was preparing for the funeral and talking to the pastor of her church and things, and we were trying to come up with stories, our favorite stories about Grandma, and as we were doing that, we realized that 90% of them involved food in some fashion. She fed us, she loved us, and she showed us that love by feeding us. She came from a family that very rarely, if ever, said, "I love you." I think I heard her say that to me once in my entire life. Instead, she showed her love through food. I think if she could have figured out how to serve dessert with breakfast, she would have. And so when I think of food sometimes, that is where my focus shifts to, because, people come over, I want to feed them. We're having a family dinner, I want to feed them. I want to make cinnamon rolls. I want to make cookies. I want to make all of my favorite family foods that aren't necessarily good for you. So since Halloween is next week, let's talk a little bit about what we can maybe do to try not to make it so that we gain 100,000 pounds in the next week alone, right? So if you have children who go trick-or-treating, this is something that you're going to have to decide as a family, of course. You can do some of those things where they trade in their candy for money or a special treat or whatever if you don't want them eating all of that sugar. I know from my own perspective that I have a couple of my nieces, I have 5, a couple of my nieces are just crazy on sugar. They get the definition, it's not hangry because they've eaten, right? So they are just sugar angry. They get crazy, they get wild, they are not attractive on too much sugar. So that's something that you know about your own children. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know about your children and their sugar tolerance. So that's something that you have to decide. However, if you decide that you are going to replace that candy with something else, say, here's $10, give me your candy, whatever it is, whatever monetary amount that might be, you still have candy, right? And you probably, depending on your neighborhood and how many children you get that come to your door, you probably have leftover Halloween candy that you bought to give to the trick-or-treaters. This is where I get into trouble sometimes because I think, okay, I'm not gonna get crazy. We have leftover candy. That's awesome. I am going to be smart about it this year. And then every year I have some variation of this conversation with myself. I need to get this candy out of here. I need to not go crazy and eat it. I need to get this candy out of here, especially because Thanksgiving is coming and I don't need to be eating all these extra calories. And somehow, this conversation always morphs into, I'm just going to eat the candy to get it out of the house. How does that make sense, people? How is that logical? My logic is not like your Earth logic when it comes to the leftover Halloween chocolate. Now, one thing you can do is to buy candy that you hate. That is, I know some people who do that, and then they aren't tempted to eat it. That is one thing. But there are other options, I think. We're going to talk about some of those in just a few moments, but we do have to take our first break of the podcast. So stay tuned, and we will be right back with the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast. So health and wellness isn't just about leftover Halloween candy. Health and wellness encompasses all aspects of our life, right? Physical, spiritual, emotional, even sexual. Our sexual health can be just as important as the rest. And that doesn't just mean physical sexual health, but our emotional sexual health. And sometimes we need to spice up those relationships. If you're looking to spice things up in the bedroom, or maybe you've been fantasizing about surprising your lover with maybe a new toy or maybe some new visual stimulation to get things going in that department, I have a deal for you. I have an offer that you are not going to want to miss. Just go to adamandeve.com for a limited time only, and you will get 50% off of just about any item. And that's not all. Oh no. When you select your one item at 50% off, you'll also receive 3 free adult DVDs, for a little inspiration, a few new ideas maybe. Plus, you'll get a free extra gift, so sensual that I can't even mention it on this podcast. And to top it all off, they'll even throw in free shipping on your entire order. No, they're not kidding. I promise you, free shipping on your entire order. So check out adamandeve.com today for this special offer and get 50% off one item when you type in the promotional code of HEALTH, that's HEALTH, upon checkout. When you do, you'll get those 3 DVDs, free DVDs, a free extra gift, and free shipping. Just use the offer code HEALTH, HEALTH, at adamandeve.com. HEALTH, HEALTH, at adamandeve.com. Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast. We are talking about those holidays that are right around the corner. Specifically, Halloween is next week. So, what do you do? I would love to hear what you do and how you get through the holidays. I would love to hear your tips and tricks. Not your tricks or treats, but your tips and tricks on what you do to get through the holidays without gaining a million pounds, how you are able to do things in moderation, etc. You can find us on social media, and I would love to hear from you there. Please check us out. Twitter and Facebook are usually the easiest ways to interact and leave your comments. So find us on social media. We'd love to hear from you. At any rate, we were talking about Halloween candy and what you do with the leftovers, whether that's your children's candy that you have either, bribed them for, or you're just stealing when they aren't looking, because, hey, we've all done that, or the leftover Halloween candy that you bought to pass out to the trick-or-treaters. What do you do with it? Well, don't be like me and get it out of your house by eating it. That's not good for your teeth, and it's not good for your blood sugar, and it's just not good for your overall health, depending on how much you have left. Everything in moderation. One small piece of Halloween candy a day, probably not bad. One bag of Halloween candy a day, not good. So, what do you do? Well, you can throw it away. That's an option, but a lot of people don't like to just throw food away because, if it's left over and you paid for it, you don't want to waste it. And some people just get a little weird about throwing that kind of stuff away. Don't blame you. Not here to judge about that sort of thing. Not here to judge at all, really. Just here to kind of walk you through my experience and what I've heard from others that sometimes works. What I have heard from others that they have done is donating it. Sometimes community centers, churches, etc. will have a program the week after Halloween where they will take your leftover Halloween candy for whatever reason. They might have a lot of reasons, a lot of things that they do with that leftover Halloween candy. So that's an option. Sometimes I was involved with a preschool a while back, and they would take donations of leftover Halloween candy to send to families who had service men and women who were deployed, or not even deployed sometimes, but they would make care packages. So that is another option. If you don't have someone that you can donate it to, maybe you know someone who is in the military. Maybe you have family or friends who are in the military. Maybe you have neighbors who have a son or daughter in the military and they are looking for care packages. Always double check first as to what items you can send in those care packages, because sometimes chocolate isn't the best option. It doesn't ship well. It can melt. It can, sometimes it's not the best option. So always double check. Another good idea is college kids. Do college kids need that much sugar? Probably not, but they're still at the point where they have better metabolisms than the rest of us have. And who doesn't like to get? I loved care packages in college. It made me so very happy. And getting a care package with leftover Halloween candy would have made my entire day. This time of year, it's often midterms, so sending a care package would be delightful. They can get a little sugar rush. They can share it with their dorm mates or their roommates or wherever they're living, and it's just another option for what to do with that leftover Halloween candy. So what else? What else can you do to kind of ward off the Halloween craziness that comes? For a lot of people, it's getting colder. So we tend to want to burrow in. I call it the hibernation season, because the colder it gets, and I grew up in Montana, so it would get cold and I would just want to snuggle up in front of the fire. I grew up we didn't have central heat growing up. We just had a wood stove. I would love to just cuddle up in front of the fire with a cup of hot chocolate and a book. And it was hibernation season and it was wonderful. I now live in Northern California. It doesn't get that cold here, but still, as the rainy season comes and everything, I don't want to go out as much as I do in the summer, right? And so we're less active this time of year. I love to walk. I love to walk to run errands. That sounds funny, to walk to run errands. I guess I would be walking errands in that case. I love to walk and listen to audiobooks. But when it gets colder, I have a little bit more trouble. So what can we do? Again, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to tell you what's right for you. You have to figure out the ways that you can either avoid the sugar and the treats and the calories, or encourage yourself to be more active. I am saying all these things in the back of my head. There's a little voice going, you're a hypocrite. You're talking about health and wellness. You do not like to exercise. And it's true. I have a love-hate relationship with the gym. Love the way it makes me feel once I get into the rhythm. But I like to joke that exercise endorphins are a myth because I understand they take a while to build up. But, when you go to the gym, when you first start getting back into shape, you just feel tired. Yeah. At any rate, I don't always make the best choices. I don't always have the best habits. So I am here to talk to you from a very normal human standpoint, I guess. So what do you do to get yourself motivated? Whether it's playing with your kids, walking your dogs, going to the gym, finding a new class, doing yoga at home, there's all kinds of things that you can do. And so for me, I have to find first the motivation, and then the time. Sometimes that's a problem for us, is finding that time. As I said, like to walk, and so I have the pedometer on my watch that tells me my steps, and I do try to hit that 10,000 steps a day. I do not always make it. In fact, lately, more often than not, I haven't been making it, but that is a goal. And I actually like to break that up into certain parts of the day. When I'm really on my game, I have goals. So before I get to work in the morning, I like to have 2,000 steps. And that works with just the craziness of running around, getting things together in the morning, and then walking to my office from the train because I commute. So I have a train ride and then I walk. And I try to get the earlier train for a variety of reasons. One, so I'm not late for work. I know even if there's a delay, I'm probably not going to be late. And two, because it gives me time to travel an extra stop and get off and walk, so that I have at least 2,000 steps by the time I get to the office. Then there's the regular office walking, and I try to have another 1,500 steps by lunchtime. I only have a half an hour for lunch, so that's not really enough time to go somewhere and eat. Instead, I take another walk. Often I will call my hubby on my lunch hour just to chat and see how his day is going, and I walk, and I try to get up to 6,000 steps as I am walking over my lunch hour. I'm going to finish this conversation in just a few minutes, but we do have to take our second break of the podcast. I know you're dying to find out where I get the other 4,000 steps, but you're just going to have to be patient. So stay tuned, and we will be right back with the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast. I was talking before the break about my daily step goals and how I try to get those in. I am a creature of habit, and so when I can find something that I have little mini goals that I can shoot for and work them into my day, that's great. You, of course, will want to find whatever works best for you. I just offer my example as one way of doing something that might, if it helps you, cool. If it sparks some kind of ideas, even better. So 6,000 steps by post-lunch. And then, of course, during the afternoon, I usually get another 1,000 to 1,500 steps just walking around the office, doing things as I'm working, etc. And this is then where I tend to falter because I don't have a specific goal. Well, I should have a specific goal of hitting 10,000 steps. But once I get home, sometimes I'm exhausted. I don't want to think about finishing those steps. Usually by the time I walk to the train and then get home, I'm at about 8,000. It's between 7,000 and 8,000, usually closer to 8,000. Those last 2,000 steps shouldn't be that difficult, right? I have 2 dogs, 2 chihuahuas that love to go for walks. I should be able to take them out and get those extra 2,000 steps. Doesn't always work. When I'm having really good days, I will walk either partway home or all the way home from the train, and that is almost 4 miles. So on those days, I can get upwards of 16,000 steps in my day, which definitely puts me over my goal. But again, I live in Northern California. Sometimes it's 110 degrees. Sometimes it's raining. So it really depends on the season. Right now, it's been pretty nice, and I have been trying to walk a little bit. But as I am talking to you, I did not do my normal routine of the day, and I am only at 6,500 steps. So that's my confession to you for today. And it is, getting to be later in the day. So I confess to you that I do not always hit my health goals. I don't know if that helps you. Maybe you tune into this podcast to hear someone who has it all figured out. I'm not necessarily that person. Maybe you tuned into this podcast and you're thinking, oh, hey, I appreciate that she can admit that she doesn't always do everything right, that she scarfs down Halloween candy, and that she doesn't always reach her daily step goals. I'm just here to provide some thoughts, maybe a little inspiration, maybe some thought starters that can get you thinking in a different direction, get you thinking about things from a slightly different perspective. And if I have done that, then that is wonderful. As I said, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what you do, especially during the holidays. Since we are about to hit Halloween next week, I would love to hear how you avoid those sugar rushes, how you fit in more exercise if you don't avoid those sugar rushes. What do you do, and how do you encourage and motivate yourself? And if you're one of those people that doesn't like chocolate, well, then I hate you. I don't really hate you. Please don't send me hate mail. I love chocolate. I would eat chocolate as my daily source of sustenance. If it had all of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that I need during the day, I would be so very happy, and I would eat my weight in chocolate. Really, I would. This is part of my problem. So when people say they don't like chocolate, or they're allergic to chocolate, or, they've never really gotten into chocolate, I'm like, wow, that'd be so awesome. Think of how, I don't know. But then I also think if it wasn't chocolate, it would probably be something else. I have a friend who doesn't like chocolate, but she has the same relationship with salt that I have with chocolate. So, it's usually just one temptation replacing another if you have that in your life. And giving up or trying to eliminate a sugar addiction can be extremely difficult, but it can be done, or you can limit your intake. Some people are all or nothing. They don't do well with moderation, and so they have to cut it out completely. Other people have really amazing self-discipline and really amazing willpower, and they can hold themselves to one piece of chocolate or no chocolate, depending on, or, whatever their vice is. Everyone is different. You have to figure out what kind of person you are. No podcast, no plan, no eating, no food prep plan, no diet plan. And I don't like the word diet. I'm going to go off on a slight tangent here and come back to my original point. I don't really like the word diet because we tend to go on diets, right? Where we're trying to lose X amount of pounds in X amount of time. I try to think of it more as really a lifestyle change. And I know that's kind of a cliche, but diets can be dangerous, and diets can take us down paths that are not always healthy. So what we need to do is find what works for our bodies, find what motivates us, what works in terms of our lifestyle, and stick with that. Change a few small things, then work those into some bigger things until you are healthy, because really what it's about is your overall health. It's not that number on the scale. It's not the number inside the tag of your clothes. It is how healthy you are, whatever your shape happens to be. Don't let the magazines, don't let society, don't let everything else tell you what shape you have to be. Let your doctor tell you how healthy you are. Anyway, I was back to there's not one size fits all in terms of exercise, diet, nutrition, all of those things. You have to find what works for you. If I could have a theme to my hosting of this podcast, that's what it would be. You have to find what works for you. And what works for you today may not work for you in 6 months. Things are always evolving. Life does not stand still, and neither should we. So that's probably enough of me blathering at you for this podcast. I really hope that you were able to take some things out of this podcast that might have inspired you or made you think about something in a different way. That's really my goal. And if I did that for you, that is awesome. I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful also that you joined me today. I hope that you will join me again next time when we'll talk about more aspects of health and wellness. I would love to hear from you. sometimes, it's just my voice kind of out there in the world when I do podcasts. I would love to have some feedback from you. Hear what you think. Hear what works for you, what you have found that inspires you and motivates you, and how you have either changed habits or created new habits, whatever it is, and how you deal with Halloween, how you deal not only with Halloween, but with all of the holidays as they are coming up. I would love to hear from you, and you can interact with me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, and just type in GSMC Health, and I think you'll be able to find us, no problem. Come and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Give me your tips, ideas, and feelings about chocolate. You can find all of our podcasts at www.gsmcpodcast.com. You can download this and all of those podcasts on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and any app that you use for your mobile devices. Just type in GSMC and all of our podcasts will come up, and you can choose from our many topics. Thank you again for joining me. Please join me again next time. In the meantime, go out, get motivated, and just live life to the healthiest you. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.